Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah alladhi arsala rasulahu bilhuda wa din al-haqqi liyudhhirahu ala ad-din kullih wa kafa billahi shahida wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. As to what proceeds, after praising Allah the Most High, separated from His creation in a manner which befits His Majesty, with love and veneration exclusively for Him, and then requesting Him the Most High to send His salah and salam upon His final Prophet and Messenger, Khatamul Anbiya wal Mursaleen, Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Qurashi, alayhi as-salatu was-salam. We meet once again to read and benefit from the book. It is written by al-Ma'sumi, Shaykh al-Ma'sumi al-Khujandi rahimahullah ta'ala. Should a Muslim blindly follow a particular fiqh madhhab? In our previous meeting, we read the statement of Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala giving the benefit of doubt to Abu Hanifa, explaining a methodology that is adopted by the Hanafiya, or as the Hanafis would say, that they prefer that a weak hadith is given preference or excels over qiyas, which is analogy, an opinion. So the Hanafis say that if they had to choose between hadith da'if and qiyas, then they would give preference to hadith da'if. Whether this is the reality, and if this is practically followed, but that theory is present amongst the Hanafis. And this is what Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah indicates towards mentioning this theory, or this idea which the Hanafis try to present. So then the Shaykh, he says, Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he says, all the followers and companions of Abu Hanifa agree that even a weak hadith excels qiyas, analogy, an opinion. It should be noted that the foundation of Hanafi madhab lies on this point. If anybody says that it is not obligatory to act upon the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it can be very easily assumed that he is not a true Muslim and intends to discard it merely on the basis of presumptions. He is doing it on purpose because no Muslim can dare to think of it. If anybody makes excuses that grasping the sense of hadith is not possible, it is only a lame excuse and not acceptable anywhere and in any condition. How can it be accepted when Allah revealed the Quran for guidance and for understanding its meaning and to observe its commands in practical life? Allah commanded the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to explain its meaning to all. Allah said, لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. So, going back to the statement of Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, the statement of Ibn al-Qayyim finishes that the foundation of Hanafi madhab lies on this point. This is a problem with translators, that the translators do not separate the speech of Ibn al-Qayyim and the speech of al-Ma'sumi al-Khujandi. Somebody may think all of it to be the speech of Ibn al-Qayyim. And this is a problem. After the statement of Ibn al-Qayyim, al-Ma'sumi al-Khujandi, he explains and he says that there cannot be no person who can be called a Muslim, and if he was to say or believe that it is not obligatory to act upon the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, this is not feasible. How can somebody be a Muslim and say that you can't, it's not obligatory, it's not wajib to follow the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ? If the big if is there, that if a person was to hold this position, then it can easily be assumed that he is not a true Muslim, and that he intends to discard the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ merely on the basis of presumptions, of dhunun. He is doing it on purpose because no Muslim can dare to think of it. So this is ta'ammudan, this is something which is intentional. If anybody makes excuses that grasping the sense of hadith is not possible, if somebody was to come with this argument and he would say that, to understand hadith, it's literally impossible. It's very difficult to grasp the understanding of the hadith. And if he was to bring this argument, then the Shaykh says, this is a lame excuse. In reality, this is stupidity and not acceptable anywhere and in any condition. How can the understanding of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam be difficult, and the understanding of men, which is full of contradictions, full of retractions, be easily understood? So the statements of men, ara or rijal, within them you find contradictions and retractions. Sometimes you don't know which was the latter opinion and which was the early opinion. You don't know which was the first opinion and which was the last opinion. So, but there is no contradiction when it comes to the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If there seems to be an apparent contradiction, then that is due to not having the ability or to knowledge to harmonize and reconcile between the narrations. How can it be accepted when Allah revealed the Quran for guidance and for understanding? So the Quran, the purpose of why the Quran was revealed was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed His book so that His book be acted upon, amal. The purpose of the Quran to be revealed and to be sent to mankind and jinn was that they be rightly guided. And the guidance, for them to choose the path of guidance, comes through acting upon amal, upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. And amal is only possible when there is ta'aqqul. When there is ta'aqqul, comprehension and understanding of its ma'ani, of its meanings. So this is how the Quran has been revealed as guidance. As Allah said, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So this guidance has come when mankind contemplates, reflects, and makes an effort to understand the speech of Allah. Then, in addition to this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with His mercy, He sent a messenger and He commanded the messenger to make bayan, to explain and clarify and give details to that which is general. to explain in great detail so that mankind has no excuse on the Day of Judgment, saying to Allah that we could not understand the meanings that you revealed. And Allah says, لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِ, that you may explain clearly to men what is sent down to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran, and He informed the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the wazifa, or the job of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was to explain, so that he explains to mankind and he gives a solution and solves all their problems and all their queries and all their questions. This was the wazifa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was the wazifa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then the Shaykh continues and he says, so how is it possible that the words and sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which are basically to explain the meaning of the Quran, are beyond the understanding of people, except one Imam? So this is the first question. That this Quran that has been revealed, they say to you that if you read the Quran and try to understand the Quran, you will be misguided. That's what they say. The Muqallida, they say that the Quran, reading the Quran or reading the Quran translation will misguide you in its totality. Meaning, in its totality. We don't say in its totality that the Quran can misguide you. But we do say that reading the Quran and trying to understand the Quran independently without referring back to the people of knowledge can be problematic and can lead to misguidance. It is for this reason that Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, and I've mentioned this over and over again, he says that the Quran is divided into 3 parts. The first part of all, or 3/3 of the first third of the Quran is the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 1/3 of the Quran is only about Tawheed. The second third of the Quran is about halal and haram. What is halal and what is haram? And the third of the Quran is about the qasas of the Anbiya and Rusul, about what has happened in the past and what will happen in the future, Jannah and Jahannam. With regards to Tawheed and the qasas, then everybody can read this and clearly understand this. When it comes to the halal and the haram, then na'am, you will have to refer back to the people of knowledge to understand. So if the Quran is read on this basis, then if you are reading with regards to the stories of the prophets, or if you're reading with regards to the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the Quran is clear. The language of the Quran is clear. Everybody can understand this in general. But when it comes to halal and haram, then this is problematic. And this is what the Shaykh says here. He says that how can it be possible that the Prophet ﷺ was sent with the mission to explain, make bayan of that which may seem unclear, or even to elaborate upon that which is clear. that only an Imam can understand all this and nobody else can understand this. So the Shaykh, he says, on the presumption of blind followers that there has been no mujtahid for centuries. So what do the muqallida say? This is another thing that the muqallida say. The muqallida, or the blind followers, they say that the doors of al-ijtihad after the 4 Imams are closed. There can be no mujtahid that can be born. So everybody has to be a blind follower. In other words, the doors of ijtihad are closed. Shah Waliullah Muhaddith al-Dahlawi rahimahullah, he refutes this concept, where he says that this is a crazy ideology, that the doors of ijtihad are closed. And they say that for hundreds of years there has been no mujtahid. Right? To understand the Quran, logically, no one is presently intelligent enough to understand the Quran and Hadith thoroughly. They say, since the 4 Imams, there's been nobody who can understand the Quran and Hadith thoroughly. You can't understand the Quran and Hadith thoroughly. The Quran and else that came after them can understand the Quran and Hadith thoroughly. So this is the argument that they came with. So the first argument that they came with, and this is very important that you understand this, because if you don't understand this, this is basically the crux of the book. What I'm going to mention now is the argument of the blind followers is based and built upon this. The first is that the doors of ijtihad are closed. And it is literally impossible to be independent of the 4 Imams in order to understand the Quran and the Sunnah. Nobody can understand the Quran and the Sunnah without the lens of the 4 Imams. So every single person that comes down till Yawm al-Qiyamah, to the extent that Isa alayhi salam, when he comes back, he will be a muqallid of the madhhab of who? Of Abu Hanifa. We went through this in the beginning. Yes, this is what they say. That Isa alayhi salam, a prophet and a messenger, he will be a muqallid of Abu Hanifa, because Abu Hanifa's madhab is the best madhab. He's going to go somewhere, there's going to be a chest, he's going to open that chest, and there's going to be ikhtilaf of the 4 madhabs, and then he's going to come and he's going to say, Hanafis are the best, therefore I am a Hanafi. Isa alayhi salam. This is what they have. This is what the Hanafis have written in their books. I'm pretty sure that we went through this, and I gave evidence for this. Abu Zainab, the evidence was presented. So I'm not making this up. The Hanafis literally believe that Abu Hanifa, they literally believe that Abu Hanifa will have more knowledge than Isa alayhi salam, because a muqallid in reality has no knowledge. In fact, we even see that they claim that the Sahaba were blind followers. Many of the Deobandi scholars, they say that the Sahaba were muqallids. They were blind followers, that they used to blindly follow other companions. So this is what the Shaykh says. He brings the first argument and he says this. He says, so in the beginning, such topics and ideas were propagated by those who wish to conceal the position of the madhahib and their own ill will against the Quran and the Sunnah. So these arguments that, oh, you can't follow the Quran and the Sunnah independently, and it is impossible to do ijtihad. This first started as the first step, or stepping stone or milestone for these muqallida, as the Shaykh mentions. This is very important. It was propagated by those type of fanatics who wish to conceal the position of their madhab and their own ill will against the Quran and the Sunnah. So they had something, there was something in their heart against those narrations that were against their madhab. So they came with this argument, subtle arguments. They couldn't come out vocally and publicly and come out, all guns out. They came with this argument. Because for the purpose of hiding the contradictions of madhahib. So they wanted to conceal the contradictions of their madhahib, which were clearly against the Quran and the Sunnah. So they said, no, you can't understand this. The Imams, they were mujtahids and they understood. And me and you, we can't understand this. We just follow. It looks like to you is contradiction. There's no contradiction. Even if the issue is about halal and haram, even if the Imam is saying that this is halal, and the Sunnah may say something contrary to it, they will say, no, you follow that. And you find this argument today, Umar, you find it amongst the people today. They tell you the same thing. Akhi, have you read 400,000 hadith before you make the judgment that Abu Hanifa is wrong? You have to read 400,000, 500,000, 1 million hadith before you make the decision that Abu Hanifa is wrong. Have you read 400,000 hadith? Have you read 500,000 hadith before you say that Abu Hanifa is wrong? Have you read all the books of fiqh? Have you studied usul al-fiqh for 50 years? So this is how it started, he said. And in the first phase, the understanding of the Quran and Hadith was limited to jurists. What is it? In the first phase, the understanding of the Quran and Hadith was restricted to the understanding, was limited to jurists, to the mujtahids of Islamic law or imams. So this was the first phase. The first phase was what? First it was the argument, and we had the first phase, and they said Quran and Hadith can only be understood by the mujtahids. Only the mujtahids can understand the Quran and Hadith. If you're not a mujtahid, you can't understand Quran and Hadith. Sorry. You just have to read the books of fiqh, and you just have to blindly follow. Then came the second phase. The second phase, the existence of mujtahids was absolutely negated. So the first stage was that you have to follow the mujtahids. And then the second phase was that there's no ijtihad. No ijtihad today. You have to follow. Who do you have to follow? You just have to follow the mujtahid. There's only 4 mujtahids, and you have to follow them. This was the second phase. And afterwards, such silly ideas were disseminated among the common folks. And then this was projected amongst the Amatun Nas. So the Amatun Nas, if you tell the Ami, Ya akhi, the Prophet ﷺ used to do Raf al-Yadayn when he used to pray Salah. He says, yeah, but I haven't read 400,000 hadith, 500,000 hadith. I don't know the corpus of hadith. Or you have to read everything before you can make that judgment, before we can do Raf al-Yadayn. Abu Hanifa read all those hundreds and thousands of hadith. He knew over millions of hadith. We don't know this. So we can't follow the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In order for you to independently follow the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you need to know thousands and hundreds of thousands of hadith. I'm not talking about the authenticity of that. And this is what they said. So then this was, these ideas were projected into the minds of the common folks, the Amatun Nas. Maybe some scholars negated the presence of mujtahideen in good faith. Some of the scholars may have said that it's difficult to be a mujtahid. No doubt. To be a mujtahid, you require a lot of knowledge. You must have some level of knowledge with good faith, with the object in mind that common people should not go astray and adopt the way of mujtahids, believing it to be equal to the Quran and Sunnah. This is a very important point here that the Shaykh has mentioned. I believe that the Shaykh has hit the nail in his place, because this is what they accuse the Salafis of. What do they accuse the Salafis of? They accuse the Salafis that the Salafis say that go pick up any book from the shelf, read it, and apply it, and do what you feel like. Basically, a mujtahid, when a mujtahid decides to act upon something or to take a position, he is independent. With his independent reading and research, He takes a position of something being halal and haram based upon the knowledge and the research that he has done. This is not the case with the awamun nas. The awamun nas are not qualified to act as though that they are independent scholars and mujtahids. And this is blasphemy, and this is a lie against those who say that we propagate this. So we don't say that any Salafi is independent from the scholars. And secondly, a Salafi can act like a scholar and a mujtahid, which many do. And this is not the fact, this is not a problem just within the Salafis. In those who claim that by blindly following, you will not be doing this, I can prove that even within the madhahibs, the muqallida do this. There is no escape from this. There is no escape from this. And I mentioned that the muqallid in reality is following the madhab of his mufti and scholar. There is no such thing as a muqallid who is a real Hanafi. The muqallid follows whatever his living scholar or his living mufti tells him. That's his madhab. So that's why you find a lot of contention and a lot of confusion with regards to the muqallid. I will give you two examples of two issues which are international and national issues which the muqallida are not united upon. Okay? And that is the issue of the moon sighting and the issue of what time does Fajr start and what time does Suhoor finish in the month of Ramadan. In the masajid of the muqallida, you see all different types of opinions. There's some people closing their fast. Some Hanafis have prayed their Fajr and they're already in bed, while the other Hanafis are out there in Dixies buying a number 4 meal. You find this. Some muqallida are doing Eid one day and the other muqallida are doing Eid the second day. Well, we thought that taqdeed and blind following is supposed to save you from this contention. But the ikhtilaf is still there. The ikhtilaf is on the level which depends on the Eid of the people, of when they start to fast, and this is the shi'ar of a Muslim, the landmark of a Muslim. That's why when we used to be in school and when we were young, and there used to be, in my class, there was something like, I think there was one guy who was not a Muslim. So the teachers were in our school, 90-something or 95% of our school was Muslim, the junior school. So the teachers decided, you know what, we're ready to give you a holiday, but you guys don't decide, you can't decide which day is your Eid. Christmas is on the 25th. Agreed upon, muttafaqun alayh. Yeah? Every year there is a problem. So I used to have a cousin, my first cousin was in my class, and he used to do the Eid the next day. And I used to do the Eid one day before him. And my teacher knew that we were cousins. So she used to think, how can these two cousins? So when I'm celebrating Eid, he's at school. I remember there was once PE, we used to do PE, physical education like they call it, and we used to play football and that. And we used to go to a sports center. That was the most highlighting thing of the week. Now the day which the visit to the sports center was going to happen, there was a possibility that it was going to be our Eid. And there was our Eid. So I couldn't end up going because I had to celebrate Eid. But my cousin went. He played his football and his non-stop cricket and everything. And the teacher said, where's your cousin? He's celebrating Eid. What about you? Because I won't be here tomorrow. So this is the reality that with the muqallida, this whole thing about blindly following. If blindly following Abu Hanifa as the claim it was, then somewhere along the lines of this opinion, there has been somebody who has been making these independent judgments. He's been acting like a mujtahid to tell you that, listen, you need to close your fast at 1 o'clock and not at 3 o'clock. So we see for 30 days in the calendar of the Hanafis. So the Hanafis, they pray Fajr always in Asfar. They pray Fajr right at its end of time. By the time we do Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, is sunrise. All throughout the year. On the 1st of Ramadan, they have a 3 hour, 4 hour kick all the way up. Fajr becomes at 1 o'clock. And then on Eid day, you have the kick down again. Eid Salah becomes 4 o'clock again, a jump of 3 to 4 hours. You can see this in the timetables. So this is the hal of these people, and this is what the Shaykh said. So it must be noted here that Da'wat al-Salafiyya is restricted and is mutaqayyid with the fahm of the Salaf of this ummah, the fahm of the Sahaba. That for the awamun nas, for the amatul nas, for the normal people, they are not given permission to try to understand the Quran and the Sunnah independently. When we say that to understand the Quran and the Sunnah independently, we're talking about al-ahkam al-shar'iyyah. Al-ahkam al-shar'iyyah na'am require that a person excels and devotes his time and studies and masters and becomes an expert in those areas. And he is the one who can exercise and look into those judgments. But not an army, not an amatul nas. So the Shaykh said that if it was said that you cannot be a mujtahid, and if this is what it was meant, then we have no issue with this. We are in agreement with this. That the normal layman does not have the right to pick up the books and to start to give fatwa as many do. And this is a musibah and balawa amongst us. And the Salafis have been disgraced because of this, looked down because of this in the West. It is for this reason, subhanAllah, that you see in Saudi Arabia, in Al-Mamlakatul Arabiyyah Al-Saudiyyah, you see that the Arabs, the Amatul Nas, you will never see them give fatwa. You will never see them speak about such issues. They will tell you straight that there's the Shaykh, they go ask the Shaykh. People will come to you sometimes and say, Anta Shaykh, meaning, have you studied the deen? In this way. So they will first ask you, are you Shaykh, have you studied the deen? They will ask, Amatul Nas, they have been nurtured. The tarbiyah of the people in that country is that the only people that can talk about the religion and can give fatwa in the religion are the ulama who are known in Saudi Arabia. The positions are known. So this is how the asal of how the environment should be. This country has a problem is because the people of knowledge are very few in number. Or either the people of knowledge are very few in number, or the people of knowledge have been humiliated and have been disgraced, so that the Ruwaybidah can come into their place and start giving fatwa. Start giving fatwa. This is the musibah that we have in this country. That the Ruwaybidah come. That's why you will see somebody who has not studied the religion for a single day, has not completed a single book with a scholar. He's constantly doing Instagram lives. And he's talking about the Jews, and he's talking about 20-pound notes, and he's talking about this, and he's talking about that, and has never studied. And you see the foolish people who claim to be Salafi, who claim to be people of Dalil, flock towards this person like sheep. So this is the hal of the people. Or somebody is talking about certain issues, he's picking up books of ilal, he's picking up books of hadith, which are advanced level, sitting there in front of the people, banging on the book and teaching people. When people don't know the Arabic alphabet. So this is the hal of the people. This is exactly what the people of knowledge have warned against. And Al-Ma'sumi Al-Khujandi says, if this is what is meant, the Amatun Nas be given the freedom and the right to make independent judgments by bite-sized reading, by skim reading, as half-baked potatoes, then we agree to this, that we don't hold this to be permissible. Believing it to be, then he says that the people should not go astray and adopt the way of mujtahid. So the person thinks he's a mujtahid. These Instagrammers, these YouTubers, they think they're scholars. They're acting like scholars. They're giving fatwa. Somebody is saying that Allah is part of the creation, then he's retracting that Allah is not part of the creation. Somebody is saying that this is halal, and somebody is saying that this is haram. All sorts of nonsense that you see. All sorts of nonsense that you see amongst the people. Because why? Because they believe that they have the right to speak. Afterwards, the Shaykh said, afterwards, others added to it, moving from one madhab to another. Moving from one madhab to another. And this is called at-talfiq. What do they call this in the Arabic language? They call moving from one madhab to another. At-talfiq. So the issue of at-talfiq, mas'alatul talfiq, is something that you find amongst the madhahib or the madhabists that they discuss. That what is at-talfiq? At-talfiq in the language means putting things together and matching them to be one thing. This is at-talfiq in the Arabic language. When you put a set of things, a number of things together, this is called at-talfiq in the Arabic language. At-talfiq istilahan, or technically, it means that you take all the rulings, their means and premises related to one issue from different schools of thought. So basically, you have the four madhabs. You take a bit from here, and you take a bit from here, and you take a bit from here, and you take a bit from here. What you would call a cocktail. And then you make a madhab upon a cocktail. So for example, you have in the madhab the issue of mashur rats. The Shafi'iyya say that if you get water and you just do this, it's okay. The Hanafiyya say that you have to make masah to the size of your forehead. The Malikiyya, they say something. So he looks at the madhab and he says, which is the easiest out of these four? He says, you know what, when it comes to... So he's a Hanafi. He says, well, you know what, when it comes to making masah, I'm gonna take the Shafi'i opinion. It looks nice. It's easy. It comes to the issue of marriage, and he says, what's the issue of marriage? Tayyib, the issue of marriage is that the Shafi'iyya say that you need a wali before you, in order for your nikah to be said. He said, well, you know, what do the Hanafis say? Hanafis say you don't need a wali. So, well, you know what, I think I'll go with the Hanafis on this issue. So then he looks and he says, okay, the Shafi says, well, what's with the issue of touching women? Allah says in the Quran, La awla mastumun nisa. Shafi say that you touch a woman with desire, without desire, regardless, if you just touch a woman, your wudu is nullified. Well, he says, you know what, the Shafi says, you know what, I'm just going to convert to being a Hanafi. So you have all these issues in the madhab. To move from one madhab to another, this is called at-talfiq. What is it called? Meaning that he looks for rukhas. He looks for the easy way out, or what you would call fatwa shopping. At-talfiq is one form of at-talfiq is fatwa shopping. I contemplated over the issue of at-talfiq for a long time when I studied the issue of taqleed. And I came to the khulasa, or to the natija, the na'am, at-talfiq, this type of talfiq which I have just mentioned now, is based upon hawa, and it's not permissible. It's haram, la yajuz. Just like the madhhab is say that it's la yajuz, we say it's la yajuz. Why? Because the asal is to follow the ara of the people. What is it? The ara. If a person was to leave the opinion of Abu Hanifa, even if it was easier, due to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, then this would not be talfiq. Why? Because he's abandoning the opinion not based upon following his desire. He is abandoning the opinion because the sunnah states otherwise. It could be so that the opinion of a man may be difficult, and what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said may be easy. Yes, or vice versa. Vice versa. There is a Hanafi, all his life he believes that la nikaha illa bi wali. All his life he believes that there is no need for a wali. Then he reads the statement of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that there is no nikah without wali. He follows that position not because it's harsh, easier or harder. He follows it because it's the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So at-talfiq is between the ara of the people, ara al-rijal. We say this is mas'alatul hawa. This is mas'alatul hawa. That's why they say, they used to say, they say about the Ahl al-Hadith that when it comes to Ramadan and when it comes to Salat al-Taraweeh, we look at which are the less rakats, or they say, oh, it's only 11. And they pray 23. They say that, the Salafis, the Ahl al-Hadith, they pray 11 rakats because they want to follow their desires. They want to follow they say that. They say, oh, you know what, they want to the whole this must. So because they understand talfiq amongst them, they try to say that this is at-talfiq. But we say to them, ya jahil murakkab. If you were to go in most of the masajid of the Ahl al-Hadith, you will see that it takes them more to pray 11 rakat than it takes you to pray 23 rakats with a nice glass of milkshake or tea included. If you finished your nice glass of cup of milkshake or a cup of tea, the Ahl al-Hadith will still be praying their salah, still finishing their tarawih. So where is the mas'ala of hawa when it comes to 11 and 23? So these are some of the issues that the Ahl al-Hadith do not pray 11 because they want to run away from praying more rakats. The Ahl al-Hadith decreased their rakats due to why? Due to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to have prayed 11. So the qadiyya between them is a qadiyya of al-hawa, and that's why they have the masala called at-talfiq. They jump from one, and I can show you this is al-Ma'sumi mentioned. Al-Ma'sumi mentioned between madhahibs. Yes? Shafi runs to the Hanafi runs to the Maliki runs to the... I can show you at-talfiq within the madhab. It can be done within the Hanafi madhab. What happens when you have... That's why you will hardly find the pillars of the Hanafi madhab, Abu Hanifa, Abu Yusuf, Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, and al-Zufar. These are the four pillars of... You will never see them united upon one mas'ala. You will always see Zufar by himself, or Abu Hanifa by himself, or Abu Yusuf by himself, or if they all agree, one of them will say he disagrees. So what happens when somebody takes the position of Abu Yusuf on a certain issue, or Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani on a certain issue? Here he's not exiting the madhab. Here he's following one of the pillars of the madhab. So what do you have to say about that? What is there not talfiq then? Is there not following your desire then? Show me 10 masail, clear-cut, explicit masail, where all the scholars of the Hanafi are united. Clearly. Without any second opinions. Because in one mas'ala, sometimes they have 2, 3, 4 opinions. So for example, they say, these Salafis, they like to follow their desire. Why? They say they wipe over their cotton socks. They don't want to wash their feet. Lazy. We say that the umum of al-mas is a thabit from the Quran. Al-umum. Without any restriction of whether it's a leather sock or whether it's a cotton sock. In a different qira'ah, وَامْسَهُ بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. In a different qira'ah, riwayah, وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ. Other half says وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. The wipe over your heads and your feet. Which the Rafida take. Absolutely. Rafida don't wash their feet. They make muss. They make muss not on their socks. They make muss on their feet. We say وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ here refers to the sock, regardless of whether it's cotton or whether it's leather. But the evidence of wiping over your sock, regardless of whether it's cotton or whether it's leather, is established from the Quran in its generality. Everybody agrees on the leather sock, and there's ikhtilaf on the cotton sock. And then the Hanafis, they come up with the calculations that the cotton that they used to use in those days was some different type of cotton. I don't know what type of sheep and lamb lived in those days. If the breeding was any different, it was like some thick type of wool that they say that needs to be done. The wool of Marks and Spencer's or Tesco or Asda cannot be accepted. Or you have to take this cotton sock and you have to walk for 3 days. If you walk for 3 days and they don't rip, then you can wipe over them. These are the conditions that these Hanafis they put down. So we say to them that it's in your fiqh that 3 days before Abu Hanifa died, he called one of his students and he said, "Shall I not command you to do what I used to prohibit you to do for all the time?" He said, "Well, that is to wipe over the cotton sock." So there you go. It's in your madhab as well. They say, no, we don't accept this, and this is why it's not accepted. Whoa. But what if somebody was to take that position? Because they say that Abu Yusuf and Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, they didn't have any real problem with cotton socks. It was Abu Hanifa that didn't accept wiping over cotton socks first. And then they say 3 days before he passed away, he retracted from this position. So the mas'ala of at-talfiq, that the people of knowledge say has 2 conditions. So at-talfiq for them we say is batil. We say that there is no such thing as at-talfiq in the Ahl al-Hadith. Ahl al-Hadith, they follow the Quran and the Sunnah. They follow the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is not based upon her. You cannot follow your desire by following the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In fact, there's narrations that say hatta yattabi'a hawahu. Narration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that until his desire is not in accordance to what I have come with. That the desire of the man, of the human being, has to submit and be obedient to what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has come with. The second form of at-talfiq, it has been mentioned that a person who is qualified has some form of knowledge, some form of grounding, and he is able to weigh up the evidence and see that which is rajih, preponderant, or see that which is strong. And based upon that, he takes that evidence. So he takes, again here we're still talking in the context of who? Of the madhabs. So he's a Hanafi scholar, and he sees that the position of the Shafi'iyya in nikah is more befitting to be followed and correct. Just like many of the Hanafis, they were of the opinion that to put the hands on the chest is more authentic than to put the hands below the navel in their madhhab. So this is a second form of what? Talfiq. So this is not the talfiq he's talking about. He's talking about the talfiq which is fatwa shopping. When talfiq is interpreted as fatwa shopping, then this is not permissible. And this is what the Shaykh he said. When he said this, he said, moving from one madhab to another and adding and that acting upon various madhab at a time is prohibited and unlawful. As a result of this trick, there was no room left for other madhahib to take anything from them. It is well known that there is no place for such absurd ideas in Islam. Many sound-minded scholars are against the idea of blind following of one imam. So Shaykh clearly says this. Many scholars from each madhab you will find many of their own scholars rejecting absolutely following blind following of one imam. But still there is a majority of who cling to this idea. They cling to this idea, leaving aside the Sahih Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is also well known that it is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to act upon Sahih Hadith is also obligatory to follow. And it is strictly prohibited to follow anyone else. You have to follow the Sahih Hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They know these facts. And even then, these people turn to unauthentic sources for guidance. So they know this. If you ask them, Ya akhi, what is binding upon you? They follow Hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet did this, Prophet did this. No, I can't do this. Slash Hanafi. I'm a slash Hanafi. Slash Hanafi slash Deobandi. So for example, when it comes to the Iqamah, the Deobandis, they do the Iqamah whilst the Sufuf are already stood. The Barelvis, they all remain seated. When the one who's calling the Iqamah says, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala al-falah, that's when they get up. So you see the contention between them as well. Like I said, if you were to provide you with a list or with a checklist of how many contradictions there are within the madhab, then it would be a very long list to go through. The asl is to follow the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is that which is obligatory. Availability of Quran and hadith is enough to reject all other sources. If you have the Quran and hadith, then they are not in need of any other sources. Our Shaykh used to say that if the heart is filled and poured with the love of Quran and hadith, then it has no time for the opinions of other men. When the heart is empty of the Quran and hadith, it becomes filled with the ara of ar-rijal. It becomes filled with the opinions of other people. On the contrary, he who prefers the way of the Quran and the Sunnah to Imam's way is an infidel and heretic in their house. So he's Salafi. Man follows his desires. He's Salafi, the man's like an infidel. They, in the past, they made takfir of Salafis. They've called Salafis kafir. They said, this guy, he said, stay away from him, man. His man follows his desire. How does he follow his desire? He takes his salah. He says if he doesn't recite the Fatiha, there's no salah. If he doesn't do the tasbihat in his salah is invalid. What about the Hanafi? When he stands in salah, he says nothing. He can just be standing doing nothing. All Imam does everything for him, and his salah will still be accepted. So who's following his desire? Just take the issue of as-salah as an example. Take the salah of the one who prays like the Prophet ﷺ and take the salah of a Hanafi. And see the one who is praying behind the Imam and who is a Hanafi. Long time ago, I remember in our masjid, when our masjid opened, a masjid where I learned how to read Quran, as we call it, the Katatin, the first place where I learned. It's called Masjid al-Falah in Leicester. Small masjid, alhamdulillah. And Shaykh Subayl, he came to open the masjid. I still remember this. And the Shaykh, he came. Obviously, the Shaykh was going to lead. But the Shaykh was a musafir. So, in the olden days, in our masjid, they used to have this like boards, like blackboards, and they used to write with chalk. So they would write in English, and then underneath it would be Gujarati. Because the masjid committee still is a Gujarati community. For some reason, they have to write Gujarati. If they don't write Gujarati, I don't know, it's like the announcement is incomplete. I remember once there was a few old men, and there was somebody who wrote something in English, and there wasn't Gujarati, and it was going to be World War III in the masjid. Why is there no Gujarati? Why was there a notice and there was none? They were talking in Gujarati. I was just there watching. So when I went to India, I had to learn Gujarati. I went to study India. I learned how to read and write Gujarati. So Shaykh Subayl came to open our masjid, and he was a musafir. And Isha Salah, when the whole masjid would be full, during the day people were there, not there, but Maghrib and Isha, the masjid is full because people want to listen to the qira'ah of the Imam. So there was written on the blackboard that when the Imam gives salam after 2 rakats, you just stand up and do nothing. Stand up and remain silent for 5 seconds and then go into ruku. Wallah, I can still remember this. I was about 10, 11 years old at that time. I can still remember that notice. I went and I asked my granddad, why do you have to stand and do nothing? He said, the Imam gives salam, you stand up for 5-10 seconds, and then go into ruku. Stand up for the other one and go into ruku. There was an announcement made in the masjid for this. So I asked him, where is Masalatul Talfiq? We take the salah, the second pillar of Islam, to decide who is the one who is following their desire and who is the one whose salah is more difficult. And by this, the conclusion will come. It will become clear. So then how are you calling us infidels, making takfir upon us, saying that we are people of desire? When by Allah it is known that you are the people who follow your desires. You follow your desires by rejecting the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And by Allah, we the Ahlul Hadith, we say, إذا صح الحديث فهو مذهبي. إذا صح الحديث فهو مذهبي. If the hadith is sahih, then that is my madhab. So ask, what is your madhab? Say, my madhab is the madhab of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I remember this thing that happened, and everybody after, we were young kids at that time. Now Allah forgive us, but I remember when I was 9-10 years old, I was looking around what people are doing after the Imam stands up, wondering what's doing. And people are all just standing up and everybody's going into ruku. Nobody was literally doing nothing. Both rakats like that in Salat al-Isha. Allah understand. I still remember this example. When I studied the Hanafi fiqh, for years I was baffled that where does this mas'ala come from? In their fiqh, that the salah, which consists of 4 rakats, you only have to pray in 2 rakats, the Fatiha. And they said the Imam's already done that for you. Yeah? Because the recitation of the Imam is your recitation, they say. Man kana lahu imam fa qira'atul imami kafa lahu. Sufficient for you. So after how many years that blackboard mas'ala I understood when I was in India, when I studied the Hanafi fiqh. Where did this mas'ala come from? Again, based upon analogy, qiyas. So this is the mas'ala, ya ikhwan wa akhawat, that upon the Muslim is to follow the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Fill your hearts with the love of following the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And a person cannot follow his desire if he follows the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The analysis today made by Al-Ma'sumi on page 40 and 41 is the crux of the issue of at-taqleed, and he's given you the outline of this whole issue of blind following and madhabs, of telling you the phases and how it all started. You have understood this mas'ala clearly today, you have understood the argument. Now, and our answer is simple. There's only one answer, Umar. We only have one answer. You bring us 100 arguments, different types of arguments, bring us philosophical arguments, bring us rational arguments, bring us rhetoric arguments. We will only give you one answer. إِذَا صَحَّ الْحَدِيثُ فَهُوَ مَذْهَبِي. The Sahih Hadith is my madhab. I only have one answer. All throughout the book, we only have one answer. إِذَا صَحَّ الْحَدِيثُ فَهُوَ مَذْهَبِ. End of story. نعم بارك الله فيكم. نعم. طيب نعم. Any questions?
No, Shaykh, brother. Says, Ahsanallahu alaykum. My question, if any Hanafi gives 3 talaq one time as they believe, then he realizes it's wrong, and then he takes the fatwa of the Ahl al-Hadith, considering it to be 1 talaq, then what about this kind of marriage?
Repeat the question again.
The question is, if a Hanafi gives 3 talaq announcements at once, and then he realized that he did wrong, then he takes on the fatwa of the Ahl al-Hadith, considering the 3 to be 1, then what about this kind of marriage?
You mean whether the marriage is valid or invalid? Is that what you're saying?
I believe that's what the brother is saying, no?
For the Hanafi, this is talfiq. From their point of view, this is talfiq. And this is a common thing that we have amongst the Hanafis. You even know that the great scholars who feel sympathy towards some of the muqallida will call them and they will say, come here. Don't say, I told you. Just go to the Ahlul Hadith Mufti. Just go get a fatwa from him. You know, your marriage will be saved. So I was in India, and in the village where I became Salafi, Samroad, we had a case. As you know, Samroad is located between villages which are all Deobandi. There's about 300 and something villages there's only one village that's Salafi there. The village has been Salafi during since the time of Shawkani, because the Shaykh who was there, his granddad was a student of Shawkani, rahimahullah ta'ala. So the Shaykh who was there, he invited me for the meeting. So we had a couple that had come with 2 children, and the woman was crying, and she said, you know what, we've been told that only you guys can solve our problem. So what's the issue? He said, I gave her 3, and they've told me that it's finished. Now if I want to be back with my woman, I have to do a halala. Everybody understands the concept of halala. A halala is that the divorced woman gets married to another man. She spends a night with that man. She consummates the marriage with that man, and then the next day that man, he divorces her. When he divorces her, then she can go back to her first husband. Consummation is a condition for halala. And these Deobandis and Barelvis in Pakistan, they have halala centers. What do they have? They actually have halala centers. You actually go there and you pay the guy. People pay the guy to sleep with their wives. You actually have to pay them. And they call us, they say about us that we are people, and the people who do these actions are all the Maulvis, all the ones that study in the Darul Ulums. There's actually centers there. On kulli hal, we sat down, and so Shaykh that was there, he asked me, I was sat there in the meeting. I said, why have you come to us? I said, what madhab do you follow? He said, Hanafi. I said, so what do you want? He says, we want fatwa from you guys. I said, you're not getting no fatwa from us. You're Hanafi, go to your scholars. There's no fatwa here. If you ask me the position of whether 3 divorces are 3 or 1, I'll tell you that 3 divorces are 1. They said, no, and I've thought about this and it doesn't make sense. I said, okay. I said to one of the people that was sitting, I said, take out a paper and write the following. I said, what's your name? He said, my name is so-and-so. I said, I, so-and-so, denounce the aqidah of the Deobandis, and I willingly, without any force, accept the madhab of Ahlul Hadith. From now on, when I pray Salah, I will believe in the aqidah of the Salaf, and I will do Raful Yadayn, and I will do Amin bil Jahar, and I will do all this, and this. And if I do any deception or deceive on the fatwa which will be given will be invalid. I said, sign this paper. I'll give you the fatwa. He looked at me and he was mudhish. He was, what is this? I said, Shaykh, if he signs, they will give him the fatwa. If he doesn't sign, put your fatwa away. A woman goes to him, sign it. Become Salafi. So I said to him, I want to teach you a lesson. I said, the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a deen which has come with rationality. Has not come against the aql. Has not come on the basis of having immorality. The deen of Allah would never allow halala as an action to be practiced in the name of Islam. You know that your only solution left by your scholars is for your wife to go on, spend a night with another man. Why are you following these people, man? Isn't this enough for you to know that they are misguided? Anyway, I said what I had to say, and I said, I don't know what the decision, they made the decision, I was just there, but I put that condition that if they wanted me to sign on that document, then that document needed to be signed first. So the talaq, if the person leaves the fatwa of his scholars just to save his marriage, then obviously he's not sincere towards Allah and Allah's message. Now, accepting 3 divorces to be 1 has to be with sincerity, with obedience, with inqiyad and ittiba. There is no inqiyad and ittiba here. Now, the next question.
Now, Shaykh, a sister asks, Ahsan Allah ilaykum. Shaykh, did that first phase start during the time of Abu Hanifa?
No. The first phase must have started after his time. No.
No, Shaykh, a sister asks, Ahsan Allah ilaykum, Shaykh, who are the Ruwaybidah?
The Ruwaybidah, the Prophet ﷺ has described them in the hadith. But in a nutshell, Ruwaybidah are those who speak about the issues of the deen and who have not studied the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are known as the muta'alimin, and they are misguided and they misguide others. Now.
You mentioned slightly to the side, but you mentioned to do with this person who hits their books
No.
What are the manners of a student of knowledge to do with books, and how do what are should one place things on top of books and so forth?
Well, one of the students asks here that I mentioned about certain Ruwaybida who start smashing and banging on books and throw books probably. And this person is a diseased individual and he will never prosper and he will never be able to be successful in seeking knowledge unless he repents to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and stops. With regards to talab al-ilm and the adab of talab al-ilm, we have heard from our teachers is that they even detest and they dislike that the books be placed on the floor, although it is permissible. Because they say that the knowledge which you are gaining, if you do not show ihtiram and respect to it, what type of student of knowledge are you? So that which is befitting for a student of knowledge is to show respect to the book that he's learning from and that he is studying. And because in that book, surely you will have ayats of the Quran that the book will contain. You will have a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When we look at the adab of a talib al-ilm, they say that when the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioned and being recited, the talib al-ilm should make insat and remain quiet. And when the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being recited, the talib al-ilm should not raise his voice above the voice of the one who is reading the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to show respect. So the adab are many. And this type of adab that this jahil murakkab, ajhal and safi has, then nobody from those who see that talab al-ilm is an act of ibadah, that talab al-ilm, regardless of who he may be or which sect he belongs, nobody from these sects agree that this is the way a talab al-ilm behaves. Now,
Shaykh, may I ask a question?
yeah.
Where did they get the evidence for their concept that there is no mujtahid, that there is no one that can make ijtihad except the four imams? Where did they get this concept from?
They get this concept from that they say that everybody that came after these four imams were dependent upon them, so they can't excel.
But they all make taqleed.
Yeah, they have to make taqleeds. You're bounded. Nobody can come and be more intelligent and surpass them in knowledge. So this is a speculative theory that they have. No. Now, many more questions?
No, Shaykh, the sister asks, Ahsanallahu alaykum, Shaykhana, which scholar should the layman refer to? Is it best to refer to the local imam or his or her own teacher, or should a handful of imams from al-Sunnah be chosen and adhered to?
A person is not bounded to stick to anybody in individual, any scholar particularly. But there are certain scholars who are experts in different fields. So if you wanted to know about tafsir and masala of tafsir, you will go to the scholar who is an expert on tafsir. If you wanted to know a masala on hadith, you would go to a scholar who is an expert on hadith. If you wanted to know a masala on aqidah, you would go on a masala aqidah. If you wanted to know about fiqh sunnah, then you will go to a scholar who is an expert on fiqh sunnah. And there are certain scholars who may be mutafannin, meaning that they may have knowledge in all different sciences to a certain level. So a person should go to anybody that they're able to have access to the people of knowledge. There is no such thing as bounding anybody to anybody. You're free to go to any person of knowledge and ask. But this point should be kept in mind. Secondly, if you do have a teacher and he is an expert in that field, then no doubt because of your personal relationship and because of you being able to explain and be having access to that teacher, then it's feasible for you to go. With regards to the issue of nikah and talaq and all these type of issues, much more then you should go back to the local scholars, because this is something which is a prerequisite, that the issues of talaq and nikah are only given by the local scholars of that locality. Now,
Ahsanallahu alaykum, Shaykh, brother. No,
now,
no.
but
Brother A brother asks, Shaykh, for those who reject hadith mainly based on their desires, depending on how much they reject the hadith, would their Islam be questioned?
Nah, no doubt. No doubt. Without any doubt. Now, they are on the verge of destruction as it will come. In the lessons to come, it will come, inshallah. Naam, ya Abu Zainab.
Yeah, most of these Hanafis, they say that all of these opinions that come from their madhhab come from the students of Abu Hanifa, not from him directly.
Nah.
So in essence, they are doing taqleed of Abu Yusuf, Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, and Zulfiker, which all three of them differed in issues with each other. So
Nah.
the madhhab already is up for calamity.
Nah, no doubt.
If the roots.
Nah, so they still mentioned that if the students of the pillars of the Hanafi madhab, they themselves are disunited from what they narrate, that they are the ones who narrate regards to Abu Hanifa. Because the famous thing about Abu Hanifa is that he never wrote any books. This is the norm about Abu Hanifa. He did not write any books. Everything that has been said about him has been ascribed to him. Now we find that Abu Yusuf making jar, some serious jar, Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. He said some serious things about him, to the extent on the lines that he may have even called him a liar. So if this is debatable, that who is the one that is trustworthy and who is the one that is a liar, and also that we find the contradictions between the madhahib within themselves, of they say that no. So if you have a teacher and you have two students and he said no, our teacher said that this is permissible, and the other student said no, he didn't. He said it's impermissible, and then both statements are recorded and both statements come and evolve and be part of the madhab. This will become problematic. That's why we keep finding that Abu Hanifa has many opinions on many statements, on many issues, right? Because there's ikhtilaf of actually what was said about him. Now,
Ahsanallahu alaykum, Shaykh. A sister asked, before the first phase, was taqleed present in the time of Abu Hanifa?
Naam, there must have been traces of taqleed. We find that even in the time of Mu'adh ibn Jabal, as Waqi ibn Jarrah narrates, Mu'adh ibn Jabal said, فَأَمَّا الْآلِ مُهْتَدَى فَلَا تُقَلِّدُهُ فِي دِينِكُمْ. That even if the scholar is rightly guided, do not blindly follow him in your religion. So taqleed was warned against. There may have been some form of taqleed that somebody may have become a fanatic. So we had fanatism present between the people of Kufa, Ahlul Rai, that they would only stick to their ways and they would reject anything that came in opposition to them. So that was a form of taqleed in that sense. But it was a taqleed that became, as it became, after it evolved after the 4th century, as we know. Now,
No, Shaykh, sisters asked, so Shaykh, going to a scholar abroad to resolve your marriage, is it impermissible? So should rather one restrict himself to the local scholar?
no, it's not impermissible, but the scholar himself will know that he cannot give a fatwa if he is not in that vicinity. This is known from the adab of a qadi and the adab of a mufti. That he does not get involved in that. He could give you general rulings. For example, now when I get phone calls asking about issues of divorce, I give general rulings. In order for me to give a specific fatwa of a specific couple, then there is a criteria. Most of the time when that criteria is put to them, they never ever call me back. That criteria was given to me by my Shaykh, who taught me the fiqh of nikah and talaq when I was with him, and he told me that this is how the issue of talaq should be dealt with. So whenever I get to the second stage and I send everything, I don't get any phone calls back. Probably go to Sharia Council, give them £250 and get the case dealt with. Whereas my services are free of charge. But I still don't get people coming to me. Well, they do come to me, but then they run away. Because why? The process has to be done properly. Yeah. General fatwas can be given that this, if you ask me a general question now, somebody divorced his wife, and some are saying that 3 divorces are 3 divorces, and 3 divorces is 1, which is the correct position. I will tell you that the position that says 1 divorce, 3 divorces, 1 divorce is correct. This is my general opinion. If you brought me the whole story that they were Hanafis and then they did this and then they left that position and they only followed the position because they wanted to, that requires a specific fatwa. Now, so we wouldn't say impermissible. And no scholar is going to give you a fatwa. I know for a fact that our Shaykh Wasiul Abbas, when he has received questions on issues of divorce, he has redirected the people and diverted them to call me. And people have called me saying that Shaykh Wasiul Abbas has told us to contact you on this issue of from the UK. No. And I remember in the Shaykh's last visit, when the Shaykh came here, there was a few cases of divorces that were presented and he refused to give a fatwa. The Shaykh refused and said, I can't give you a fatwa. I can give you a general fatwa, I can give you. Specific fatwa, you have to go to the scholars or the people of knowledge here.
No, it's just reminds about a question that she asked before, which is, Shaykh, isn't a Hanbali muqallid better than a Hanafi muqallid? Also, don't we love Imam Ahmad more than others due to him being close to the haqq?
A muqallid is a muqallid. What did Ibn Abdul Barr say? What did he say? He said, La farqa bayna bahima wal muqallid. He didn't say Hanbali, Shafi, Maliki or Hanafi. He said there is no difference between a bahima, an animal, a four-legged animal, and a muqallid. He didn't restrict it to Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki or Hanbali. A muqallid is a muqallid, whether it's Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki or Hanbali. And a muqallid, if he truly was to blind follow Imam Ahmad, listen to my words, if he truly blind followed Imam Ahmad, then he would blind follow Imam Ahmad when Imam Ahmad said, don't blindly follow anybody. So he would be blind following Imam Ahmad, not to blind follow anybody. Do you understand that? He would be blind following Imam Ahmad, not to blind follow anybody. Because that's what Imam Ahmad said. لا تقلدني ولا تقلد مالكا ولا أوزاعيا. That's what Imam Ahmad said. Yeah, don't blindly follow me. Don't blindly follow Malik. Don't blindly follow Awza'i. So if he was a true muqallid of Imam Ahmad, then he would blindly follow Imam Ahmad by not blindly following anybody. Now, so for a muqallid is a muqallid, whether he's Hanbali, or whether he's Shafi, or whether he's Maliki, or whether he's Hanafi. Now, any more questions? Or
no more questions, Shaykh.
Barakallahu feekum wa jazakum. And inshallah we shall meet tomorrow. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. Tomorrow we shall continue reading. No, tomorrow we shall read the book of Shaykh Muhammad Sayyid Rasulullah. Barakallahu feekum. Because this week there is no lesson on Wednesday. There's only a lesson on Monday and Tuesday only. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.